Welcome to Classic Storytime Hub. Tonight, we bring you a reimagined narration of Guy de Maupassant's chilling tale, The Terror. This version has been carefully rewritten in English to deliver suspense and originality, crafted to keep you on edge, and unlike anything you've heard before.
You say you cannot understand me, and perhaps you never will. You think I am losing my mind. Maybe I am, but not for the reasons you imagine, my friend. Yes, tomorrow I am to be married. Strange, isn't it? I hardly know the woman who will become my wife. I have seen her only a handful of times. She is pleasant enough, ordinary in every way, small, fair, and stout, and I know myself well enough to realize that the day after tomorrow I will long for her opposite, a tall, dark, slender stranger. She is not wealthy, not remarkable. People call her a very nice girl, and soon they will say, "What a very nice woman Madame Raymond is." She belongs to that endless crowd of women who seem perfectly suited for marriage, until the moment you discover that you would prefer any other woman in the world to the one you chose. You ask me, why marry at all? Why bind myself to someone I barely know? The answer is shameful, absurd even, but it is the truth. I am terrified of being alone. At night, solitude devours me. I cannot bear the silence, the emptiness. I crave the presence of another soul beside me, someone to touch, someone to speak, even if only to mutter nonsense. I want to wake in the dark and ask a foolish question just to hear a human voice answer. I want to light a candle and see a living face near mine, proof that I am not abandoned to the shadows. Because, yes, I confess it, I am afraid. Afraid of the night. Afraid of myself. Afraid of that nameless, suffocating dread that rises from nowhere and coils around my mind. You may laugh, but it is unbearable. The walls, the furniture, the familiar objects of my home, they seem to pulse with a strange animal life. My own thoughts betray me, twisting into horrors, as if reason itself were slipping away, driven out by some invisible torment. It begins with a shiver, a vague unease. I glance around. Nothing. And still I wish something would appear. Anything tangible to anchor me. Instead, I tremble at the emptiness, terrified by a fear I cannot comprehend. If I speak, my own voice startles me. If I walk, I dread what lurks unseen, behind the door, beneath the bed, within the shadows of the curtains. I know there is nothing, and yet I whirl around, certain something is there. The panic grows. I retreat to my room, crawl beneath the blankets, curl into a ball, and shut my eyes tight. The candle burns beside me, its flame flickering, and I know I should extinguish it, but I dare not. Terrible, isn't it, to be reduced to this? Once I was calm. I walked freely through my apartment, untroubled by the dark. I laughed at the idea of fear. I never locked my door, never checked the windows, never rose in the night to reassure myself. But now I am a prisoner to a malady of the mind, a grotesque and senseless terror that has claimed me. It began last year, on a damp autumn night. My servant had just left for dinner, and I found myself pacing the room, restless, weary for no reason, too drained to work, too listless even to read. Outside, a fine rain whispered against the windows, and a strange melancholy pressed down on me. A sadness without cause, the kind that makes one long to cry or to speak to anyone at all simply to escape the weight of silence. The emptiness of my rooms struck me with unusual force. I felt swallowed by solitude, as though the walls themselves had receded, leaving me stranded in an infinite void. I sat, but my legs twitched with nervous impatience. So I rose again, wandering aimlessly. My clasped hands burned against each other, feverish, until a sudden chill raced down my spine. Convinced the damp air had seeped inside, I lit the fire for the first time that year, staring into the flames for comfort. Yet even the fire could not hold me still. I resolved to go out, to find company, to anchor myself against the gnawing emptiness. But the boulevards offered no solace. The pavement gleamed under the gaslight, slick with rain, and the air hung heavy, oppressive, as though the mist itself smothered the lamps. I drifted from cafe to cafe, peering inside only to find weary souls slumped at tables, too exhausted to finish their drinks. So I wandered aimless and alone until midnight drew me back home. Calm now, but utterly spent, I reached my door. To my surprise, the janitor opened it at once, an unusual promptness. For a moment I thought another lodger must have just arrived, and yet the hallway was empty. Whenever I leave my rooms, I double-lock the door. That night, however, I found it merely closed. Strange, I thought. Perhaps the porter had brought up some letters. Inside, the fire still glowed, casting a faint light across the room. As I reached for a candle, I froze. Someone was sitting in my armchair, back to me, warming his feet by the fire. I felt no fear. Naturally, I assumed it was a friend, admitted by the porter who knew I was out. The street door had opened too quickly. My own door had been left unlatched. It all made sense. I saw only the back of his head, tilted as if in sleep. His arm hung loosely, his legs crossed. Curious, I stepped closer to wake him. The room was dim, so I reached out to touch his shoulder, and my hand met only the empty chair. The seat was vacant. I recoiled, heart pounding, as though I had brushed against some dreadful presence. For an instant I nearly fainted, breath shallow, mind reeling. But I am not easily shaken. I forced myself to reason. It was nothing more than a hallucination. My thoughts had been clear, my mind logical. There was no madness in me. Only my eyes had betrayed me, conjuring a phantom where none existed. A nervous trick of vision, a fleeting seizure of the senses. Nothing more, or so I told myself. I lit the candle, and as I bent toward the fire, I realized I was trembling. A sudden jolt ran through me, as though a hand had brushed my back. Calm was impossible. I paced the room, humming fragments of tunes to steady myself. At last, I double-locked the door, reassured that no intruder could enter. I sat again, brooding over the strange adventure, until finally I lay down and extinguished the light. For a few minutes, all was well. I rested quietly, staring into the darkness. But soon an irresistible urge seized me. I had to look around. I turned on my side. The fire was nearly dead, its embers casting a faint glow across the floor. And there, in the dim light, I thought I saw him again, seated in the chair. My heart raced. I struck a match, only to find emptiness. Still, I dragged the chair behind my bed, as if hiding it could banish the vision. Sleep came reluctantly, and when it did, it betrayed me. In my dreams, the scene replayed with dreadful clarity, as vivid as reality. I awoke with a start, lit the candle, and sat upright, refusing to close my eyes again. Twice exhaustion overcame me. Twice the phantom returned. I began to wonder if madness had claimed me. At dawn, relief arrived. I slept soundly until noon, convinced it had all been fever, nightmare, some foolish trick of the mind. That evening, I dined at a restaurant, laughed at the theater, and felt restored. Yet as I neared my home, unease crept back. I was not afraid of him, not of his presence, which I did not believe in. No, I was afraid of myself, afraid of being deceived again, afraid of the terror that might seize me once more. For more than an hour I wandered the wet pavement, pacing like a restless soul. At last, ashamed of my foolishness, I returned home. Breathless, I lingered outside my door, paralyzed for 10 long minutes. Then, with a sudden surge of courage, I thrust the key into the lock, candle in hand, and flung open the bedroom door. My eyes darted to the fireplace. Empty. Relief flooded me, a wave of deliverance. I strode boldly across the room, yet every shadow seemed alive, every corner whispered unease. That night I slept poorly, haunted by phantom noises, though the figure did not return. Still, since that night I have dreaded solitude. I feel him near, close, surrounding me, though unseen. He has not appeared again, and yet the thought of him gnaws at me. His arm hanging limp, his head tilted as if in sleep. I cannot bear to recall it. His feet by the fire. Why does this image cling to me so persistently? He haunts me, though I know he exists only in my cowardly imagination, born of fear and anguish. I tell myself it is nothing, that I am a fool, but reason cannot banish him. He is there, invisible yet present, in the cupboard, behind the doors, beneath the bed, lurking in every dark corner. If I shine the candle, the shadows scatter, and he vanishes. Yet I feel him behind me, always behind me. I turn, knowing I will see nothing, knowing he will never show himself again, but still he is there. It is absurd, dreadful, and I cannot escape it. And yet I know this: if another soul were beside me, he would vanish. He exists only because I am alone. Simply, solely, because I am alone.
And thus the story ended. If you liked this journey into the worlds of classic literature, do not forget to support us by subscribing so we can tell you more. And hey, if there's a classic tale you'd love to hear told in this suspenseful style, drop its name in the comments below. Your suggestion might be our next chilling adventure.